His name may not be as famous as his voice, but his vocals is all you needed to know who was singing. Since you made it this far, go ahead and leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date. Now, without further ado, let's cue that intro. Edward James Kendrick was born December 17, 1939 in Union Springs, Alabama, to Johnny and Lee Bell Kendrick. Growing up in a family with a sister and 3 brothers, his family was soon located to Inslee, Alabama. At elementary school, Eddie, he would first meet Paul Williams here. Now Paul, he was a bit of a bully, and the two, they would meet when Williams would dump a trash can on Kendricks, and the two would lead into a fist fight. And after that, they were just the best of friends. When they discovered that they shared a love for music, they even sang in the same choir. They would become instant friends and even closer. During their adolescence, they began singing secular music. And in 1955, they formed a group called the Cavaliers with their friends Kells Osbourne and Jerome Everett. Now Everett, he would leave the group soon after and leaving them a trio. Now the trio, in 1957, they would relocate to Cleveland, Ohio. The trio, they would meet Milton Jenkins in Cleveland, who would eventually become the group's manager. The group, they would be renamed the Primes and relocate to Detroit after collaborating with Jenkins. During this period, Detroit music scene was on the rise. They not only gave birth to the automobile industry, but they had also created the Detroit sound, which became the sound to emulate. The Primes became a very popular group in the Detroit area under Jenkins' management. They would eventually form a sister band known as the Primettes. Now, for more information on the Primettes, go ahead and check out my video on Florence Ballard or the Supremes. The group, they would occasionally cross paths with Otis Williams' group, and the Primes, they never recorded any songs, but they was popular. But we all know popularity don't equal to money. This became an issue for Osbourne. He would leave the group and he would relocate to California to pursue his solo career. After this, the group, they would disband. As a result, Eddie, he would move back home to Alabama. Sometime later, Eddie would call Otis while he was in Alabama, and this conversation was more of a how you been type of conversation. While on the phone, Otis, he has mentioned that he was missing 2 members. So after speaking with Otis, Eddie, he would return to Detroit and inform Paul of the potentially exciting news. All 4 members, they would decide to band together to form the Eldrins. Otis had already had a date with Berry Gordy. He just needed a group. And Gordy, he would tell Otis that he loved the group, but it was just one thing. They needed a new name. Following that, Billy Mitchell, Mickey Stevenson, Otis, and Paul, they came up with the name The Temptations. And the rest was history. Eddie, he would sing lead on the Temptations songs like Dream Come True, that was released March 16, 1962, and peaked at number 22 on the Billboard R&B singles charts. The Way You Do the Things You Do, which was released on January 23, 1964, and this song will peak at number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, number 10 on the US Cashbox Top 100 charts, and number 1 on the US Cashbox R&B single charts. The Girl's Alright With Me, which peaked at under the Hot 100 charts, and number 39 on the US Cashbox R&B singles charts. This song was the first ever song that was produced by a very young Norman Whitfield. Get Ready, which peaked at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, number 29 on the US Cash R&B singles charts, and number one on the Billboard R&B charts. This song will also go platinum in the UK. and Just My Imagination, among other songs. Now, this song had peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, number 1 on the Billboard R&B charts, and number 1 on the US Cashbox charts. Because the band was on the road so many times out the year, many members of the label, they became close friends, and some members of the label formed relationships that would not happen otherwise. Now, due to them being on the road, Eddie and David, they would become close friends. According to Otis, Eddie had many relationships with Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, and he may have had a thing with Martha Reeves. Eddie, he was upset when the group started to have problems with David. Because he disagreed with the group's actions towards David, Eddie began clashing with Otis and Blue a lot, especially after Dennis Edwards took over for David. Eddie, he expressed his preference for David over Dennis and stated that he was uncomfortable singing in a psychedelic style. In addition to this, his best friend for over 20 years had fallen ill. Now, Eddie, he attempted to leave in 1965 because he wanted to see the books and felt like he wasn't properly getting paid. He also admitted that him and Gordy didn't see eye to eye. Eddie would walk out the group after an altercation with Otis and Blue at a nightclub in November of 1970. Now, for more information on the Temptations, check out my video here. Eddie would leave the group to pursue a solo career, which had led him to sign a solo deal with Tower Records. Now, the first 2 years of Kendrick's solo career started off rocking. He had absolutely 0 hits that made the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Plus, during this time, the Temptations had sent out a song that was directed towards Eddie and David. Basically, this was the first diss song ever made. The song was known as Superstar Remember How You Got Where You Are. The group doing this was all the motivation that Kendricks needed. He decided to take a different approach and move more towards disco. Now, Kendrick's third album was released in 1973, and it reached number 18 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 5 on the Billboard Top R&B Album charts. This album will also produce 2 singles with Darling Come Back Home, which reached number 67 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts and number 26 on the Billboard R&B charts, and Keep On Truckin'. This song had peaked at number 1 on the Billboard R&B charts and number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Now, with this song, Kendricks became the only Temptation member to have a number 1 single, effectively making him the Temptations' most successful solo artist. The song would sell over 1 million copies, also going certified gold. Now, Kendrick, he would release 6 more albums under Motown. During Kendrick's solo career, he never received any major financial support from Motown. And during the 70s, Gordy, he was focusing on the younger talents that he had, as well as his new solo artist, Diana Ross. And Gordy, he wanted to dabble in the television industry, so you can imagine what his attention was at this time. Older acts who refused to relocate to Los Angeles and acts who was not charting was simply dropped. This move led to Kendricks to sign with RSA Records, where he would release 2 albums. Kendricks would leave RSA and sign with Atlantic Records in 1980. But by this time, his popularity began to fade away. And his years of smoking had taken a toll on his vocal cords. Kendrick and Ruffin, they would rejoin the Temptations for the reunion tour in 1982. Now, that tour had brought a new attention to the group, but Ruffin had failed to show up for a performance, and Kendrick's voice not being the same and him not being able to hit the high notes like he used to caused the duo to leave from the group. Following the tour, Kendricks, who was diagnosed with lung cancer, he would refuse to take chemo for fear of losing his hair. Kendrick would make his money during the mid-80s by singing in nightclubs, and he would rebrand himself as Eddie Kendrick without the S. Kendrick would reconnect with David while performing, and the duo, they would go on to have a good talk and begin working with each other. This had led to the duo recording an album for RCA in 1988. The Class of 5 and Dennis Edwards was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989. Kendrick, Ruffin, and Edwards, they announced their intention to tour as the former leads of the Temptations. Everything was set in motion for the tour, but the trio was set back in 1991 when Eddie's cancer got worse and David Ruffin, he would suddenly pass away from a drug overdose. Edwards and Kendrick, they would tour as a duo for the rest of 1991 until Kendrick underwent surgery. Kendrick, he had toured as a solo act during the summer of 1992. If you was a Temptation member back in the day, seeing Eddie in this condition was heartbreaking. Eddie, he would pass away of lung cancer on October 5th, 1992 at the age of 52. On October 16th, 1999, the Eddie Kendricks Memorial Park was revealed in his hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. I wanted to remake this video for a few reasons. One, I wanted to fix the quality of the video, and mainly it gives me a chance to recreate a masterpiece about a legend and to fix all of my mistakes that I made in the first video. But I have a question for you guys. Out of all the lead singers from the Temptations, who's your favorite?